What's up, guys? It's Rohan and I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to be continuing to talk about certain NBA teams that I feel are interesting heading into the next NBA season. And last video I talked about the Milwaukee Bucks. In this video I'm going to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. So the Philadelphia 76ers were a team last year that had a lot of expectations for their two young stars and their team in general, right? Elton Brand came into that team as the general manager, and he made a lot of moves last offseason that looked good on paper but didn't end up panning out. And those were signing Tobias Harris to a max deal, signing Al Horford to close to a max deal, and signing and trading Jimmy Butler over to the Miami Heat and bringing in Josh Richardson. And the first one, the Tobias Harris deal, was a very confusing one because Tobias Harris is, as great as he is, he's very good, but he's not Jimmy Butler. And what I mean by that is he's not a guy that's going to lead the team. Tobias Harris is a great guy, and I know that he has leadership skills, but he's not as vocal as Jimmy Butler and as demanding of a player as Jimmy Butler. And when you have two young players like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid that have not proven to be leaders this far in their career, then you need a guy that's going to, or a player, a veteran player that's going to, light that fire under them, if you will. And Jimmy Butler was that guy for them. And which is why he has such a great relationship with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, because those guys were willing to work and he loved working with them and teaching them and growing with them. So I think that was a mistake on Elton Brand's part not to bring Jimmy Butler back and not to convince him to come back, because there were some rumors that him and Brett Brown didn't get along, which would make a lot of sense because Brett Brown is a coach that is not a great leader, and Jimmy Butler likes to play for coaches who are leaders, and it would make sense that they didn't get along. Nonetheless, they didn't get him. They ended up bringing Tobias Harris back. They signed Al Horford, who at the time looked like a great signing because he was one of the only guys in the NBA that was proving that he could slow Joel Embiid down. Whenever the Celtics and Sixers played, they were matched up, and Al Horford did a pretty good job on him. So bringing him onto the team sounded great at the beginning, right? It's like you got the only guy that could stop him. Great, bring him on, and they're gonna work great together. Then they lost Jimmy Butler, but they didn't lose him for nothing because they signed and traded him to the Miami Heat for Josh Richardson. They brought him in, and at the time it looked great. Their team looked great because it was looked at as a situation where their starting lineup at least has nobody under the height of 6'7". They're all great defenders other than Tobias Harris. And they're gonna be well. This is gonna work, right? This is the season. They're gonna take that leap to the championship level, and they didn't, and that could be blamed on injuries, right? Their two star players are very injury prone, and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Those guys get hurt a lot, and it could be blamed on that. But the two things I would blame it on is, number one, the coaching, and number two, the spacing and the fit. Their team just didn't work, if you know what I mean. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and Al Horford are all like 6'9" and up. Like, that's not gonna work if you have a dominant center and a point guard that can't shoot threes. You can't bring in two guys that are the same height as them and require the paint to be open for them to maximize their capabilities, and allow at the same time Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons to play to the best of their ability. It's not gonna work. And I feel like a lot of people didn't realize that early on, but when the season got rolling and in the thick of the season and the Sixers started losing games that they should have won, it was very obvious that was the problem. And like I said, the other thing was the coaching. Brett Brown was, he was too nice, is the way I would put it. He was too nice. He came out and demanded a few times that he came out to the media and said, "We're demanding Ben Simmons to shoot threes now. Shoot more threes. We're demanding Joel Embiid to be in better shape." But we didn't actually see that, right? Ben Simmons didn't shoot any threes. He took like 6 throughout the whole season. Like, how is that you demanding him to shoot? That's not coming to fruition on the court. So you can't just say these things and not having them play out on the actual court. And then Joel Embiid was still getting injured. So you got to manage that situation better. And Brett Brown didn't know how to do that. And he also didn't know how to make late game adjustments. There were countless times. My prime example being 2 years ago when the Sixers faced the Raptors in Game 7, where Kawhi hit that crazy shot to win the series. They went 3 straight possessions at the end of the game and only got one shot off, which was a heavily contested JJ Redick 3. How do you go three straight possessions in a game 7, do or die, win or go home, and get one shot off. That's a terrible shot. How does that happen? Like, you have to look at the coaching if that happens. You have to blame that on Brett Brown and his coaching staff. Like, that's their problem, right? To not be able to draw up a one play, like, it's terrible. So I think those were the two problems. His in-game adjustments were terrible, and his leadership and his lack of leadership actually was the real problem. And I think that they addressed that this offseason by bringing in Doc Rivers, who's a guy that, you know, has this label, if you will, that he carries around as a playoff choker. But I mean, we can't forget that he has a championship. He won a championship with the Boston Celtics, so he has experience, and he's a guy that's not going to be all buddy with the players. He's not going to baby them. He's going to come in, he's going to demand certain things, and he's going to do what he needs to do to make sure that his demands are met. And, you know, that's what you need with two young players like Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, who we got to stop calling them young, to be honest. They're already like 26, 25, both of them 24, whatever. They're experienced now enough to not be young guys anymore, you know. And I think that Doc Rivers is going to be a great coach for them because, like I said, he's not going to be too nice like Brett Brown was. So that was the main problem for me. And then the other thing was the spacing, which bringing in a guy like Darryl Morey as the GM of the former GM of the Rockets that they brought in to take Elton Brand's position. He didn't get fired, but he's kind of working behind Darryl Morey now. So that's good. I think that's good because Elton Brand's made some questionable trades and moves over the past few years. But Darryl Morey being brought in was a great move, I think, because he's not afraid to make the moves to better the team. And he's a smart guy, so he knows the moves that need to be made. And he proved that right away. He came to the Sixers. The first move he did was trading Al Horford to the Thunder and trading Al Horford in a first-round pick and getting back Danny Green and Terrence Ferguson. And while that might not seem too big, it's great. It's really, really big for them because Al Horford has one of the worst contracts in the NBA, and it's not arguable. He's on a 4-year, $108 million contract, and he's 33 years old. That's terrible. That's terrible. And to get rid of that contract by only giving up one first-round pick is amazing. And not to mention, they brought back Danny Green, who you can say what you want about him as in the playoffs. He choked. Yes, he didn't have a good playoffs at all, but he can shoot the ball and he can play defense. He's a great shooter and he's a great defender. And you bring that in, and that will provide the spacing that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons need to thrive in their respective positions. And his second move that he made was trading Josh Richardson, who was another guy that they got last season, and he traded him for Seth Curry. And Seth Curry, believe it or not, shoots almost like 45-50% from three, which is insane. And he's also a guy that can defend, actually. He defends a lot better than his brother, I'll tell you that much. But I think that those two players that they brought in, Danny Green and Seth Curry, will fit so much better with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons than Josh Richardson and Al Horford did. Because those guys can shoot, they can defend, and they'll provide the spacing, like I said, the spacing necessary to allow Joel Embiid to operate in the paint where he needs to be. He can't be out there shooting threes. That's not Joel Embiid's game. He needs to be in the post. He needs to be backing the defenders down and getting to his buckets at will. That's his game. And Ben Simmons needs that open court to, you know, in the half court, he needs space to work because he can't shoot. So yeah, those moves that I think that Darryl Morey made are great. Then you couple that with the draft that they had, and I think they had a great draft. They drafted Tyrese Maxey with the 21st pick, and Tyrese Maxey is a guy that for Kentucky was a great facilitator. He was a great shot creator, and you know, he didn't shoot the ball all too well, but that can be improved because he has a great form. So I think that can be worked on. And Tyrese Maxey was I think he was a steal at the 21st pick in all honesty. He can play defense too, and he's not going to start right away. He'll probably come off the bench with Matisse Thybulle and that young guys that they have off the bench. So I think that's a great pickup for them. Then they got Isaiah Joe, who was literally one of the best shooters in college basketball. And so to bring that off your bench too, I think the whole offseason that the Sixers had just makes a lot more sense than the team they came in with last season. And I think it's going to work out a lot better for them. So I'm very excited for the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think the front office has improved, the coaching staff has improved, and the team itself has improved. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a few more deals done by Darryl Morey because he's a guy that makes a lot of trades. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they did something else to better the roster. But right now, the only problem I would have is that they don't have enough shot creating. The only guy that can really shot create at will is Tobias Harris, and at times he doesn't do that too well. So I think that's an issue that they should get addressed. Maybe if they go get a guy like Lou Williams, who I think would be great for them, or some crafty veteran like that, I think that helped them a lot more. But the team that they have right now is a lot better in my mind than the team that they had last season, and I have a lot more expectations for them this season. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do in a tougher Eastern Conference, obviously. But yeah, they're going to be right back up there. And yeah, that's all I really got to say about the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'll be back next video to talk about another team. I haven't figured it out yet, but we'll see. And yeah, all right. That's it, guys. Peace.